Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. This is the workshop that is about creating a daily self-care ritual that creates alignment in your life. I am your host, Farina Latif, and I'm a spiritual coach, a multidimensional healer, energy healer, light language channel, as well as a social worker. And I'm just so excited about this topic on sacred self-care. It's definitely a topic that is really close to my heart. And I'm just excited to be able to share this with you today and really help you create a practice that feels good, that can really be something you can look forward to rather than maybe something that has been challenging for you to keep up with. And what we're going to be really talking about today is how to create this self-care ritual, especially if you are a light worker, or maybe you might be a healer, or maybe you're just an individual who, maybe puts a lot of other people before yourself and you just have a really hard time with navigating self-care. So wherever you are at on your journey, know that it is perfect and you've reached this video for a reason. So the truth is that as light workers, as healers, we've come here to really hold a high vibration and to really help hold space for individuals to ascend, to expand. And that also means that we do have to fill ourselves up. And, if you have a family, if you're a mother, it's also really important that you give yourself what it is that you need so that you don't feel depleted, so that you're able to offer the help and what it is that is really in your heart. And it comes from a place of overabundance rather than, from any place of depletion. So we can sometimes have a tendency to also, of course, put ourselves maybe last. And we may even have some ideas that we hold about what it means, to practice self-care. So today I'm going to be addressing some of these belief systems that can really be impacting us from actually taking good care of ourselves. So you're going to really learn about what is sacred self-care. You're also going to be learning about how you can create this daily practice that feels nourishing, that helps you to actually increase your energy levels. And we're going to be moving away from this place of needing or having to, do certain things. If that felt like you were maybe forcing yourself to do certain practices, we are going to actually let that go, and we're going to learn how to lean towards those things that actually really feel good and that we feel motivated to do, because we can sense that it is definitely we're going in the right direction when we're choosing what our heart is really calling for. And this is going to really help you to get realigned very quickly without having to have a whole laundry list of things to do. So sacred self-care is really about incorporating in your daily life different practices and almost weaving it through your day rather than having maybe like a chunk, of many hours. We're going to be really talking about how this can be weaved into your daily life to help you align on a mind, body, and soul level. And we are going to be talking about how to choose what is nourishing, that helps you come into alignment, and to also help you to really become the highest version of yourself as well. It's also about holding time sacred when you go ahead and do these practices, because it allows you to really recognize the importance of it. And if you're holding something sacred, it's going to be definitely a lot easier for you to do it, knowing that the purpose of it is really to help you get to this place of alignment and come into a place of really nourishing and nurturing as well. And these practices that I'll be talking about have to really do with how we can recharge, how we can rebalance, how we can expand, and also connect with ourselves throughout our day as well. So I'd like to talk now about what is not sacred self-care, or what is not self-care. So self-care is not frequently overindulging, whether it's on food, whether it's on alcohol, or maybe your thing is retail therapy, going to do a lot of shopping and spending maybe too much money that's out of your budget. Sacred self-care is also not, frequently isolating yourself, from others when things are maybe feeling too much or maybe too overwhelming. Or maybe if you have plans with somebody, it's not about, constantly canceling on people so that you can just do your own thing. And, so this is not to say that it's not okay to do that. Of course, it is okay to do that if, in certain cases, you're not feeling well, or you really need time for yourself. Maybe you've been overbooked, then you might want to, cancel on someone. But if you're finding yourself doing this often, then if you're isolating yourself, then that is going to be really apparent to you, because you're going to start to feel quite lonely as well. So some people may see some of these activities that I've already listed as acts of self-care, and they can be if they are, used in moderation. It's only when they're excessive and they have any negative consequence that they can be more of a hindrance than actually helping you to nourish and to recharge. If there's any activity that you consider to be self-care, but it actually has this, negative impact on your life, then that is actually not an act of self-care. It might actually be an act that has been used as a coping mechanism, especially if you have not been finding an outlet to express, emotion, or to maybe allow yourself to feel certain things as well. So that's just something for you to note and just think about, whether that could also be the case for you as well. So, these activities that I listed before, they don't necessarily nourish us, right? So if we are trying to eat healthier, if we're, trying to lose weight, or we've made maybe a goal that's going to be what we were going to be doing, but if we are, snacking a lot, if we're engaging a lot of, eating a lot of a lot of comfort food and things like that, then that's not necessarily, a act of self-care, is it, if we're kind of sabotaging ourselves and our goals. And the same thing goes for our budget. Say you have a budget and you want to stick with it, but you keep doing too much shopping, and you're not honoring your budget, right? That could be really clear that that's also not an act of self-care. And then lastly, if you are finding yourself not actually sleeping enough, and you've been wanting to sleep, you've been wanting to have a set schedule, but you keep watching TV late at night, falling asleep, and then waking up exhausted, that's also another sign that it's not self-care when you're sitting and watching a show that you really like. It could actually be more of, once again, a hindrance to your goal of sleeping well, and then allowing your body to also rest and nourish as well. There also could be so many other things that you could be doing as well that look like self-care, but once again, if there is any negative consequence, then you do want to really look into that and identify whether that is really a behavior pattern that you want to keep. So the next section, I would really like to talk about the myths that can really, that are really, I think, important to address at this time about self-care. There are many other myths as well, but these are the ones that I notice the most in my clients, and as well as some of the ones that I've also dealt with myself. So the first one that I wanted to address is, this idea that self-care is selfish. So sometimes what could happen is that, we can actually start feeling really guilty when we're on this process of trying to actually put in place these kinds of self-care practices. However, what I've seen in a lot of people is that this guilt can sometimes come from, early messaging sometimes from childhood, sometimes from early, adulthood, that you may have been taught perhaps that your feelings maybe weren't that important, or you may have put aside, your needs and putting yourself last to maybe please people or to help other people. And this could be a pattern that you may have actually been having for your life. And it could still be something that's continuing as well right now. I want to really shed some light on this myth because it's really not true that self-care is selfish. Because really, you are actually doing yourself a disservice, as well as to other people, if you are not actually filling your own cup, if you're not actually energizing and nourishing yourself. Because especially as a light worker, it's really necessary that you are able to do these things so that you can really give from this place of overflow. If you're feeling depleted and you're feeling maybe even resentful or depleted on an emotional or an energetic level, this could be a really clear sign that you might be actually giving too much and not nurturing yourself enough. So it's really important for us to recognize self-care, self-love is not selfish. It's a necessity, and it's not something that should be taken, lightly. It's definitely something that, as light workers, as healers, and as anybody who's here to really help support others, you need to make sure that you are filling your cup first, and you are giving yourself the time and the nurturing and the recharging that you really need. And I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of this analogy where if you are in a plane and you're with your child, and for some reason the plane is starting to go down and the masks come down, right? So you have to put your mask on first before you help somebody. And if you are actually in this place of helping, giving, and you're feeling like it's selfish to give to yourself, then you've got to really make sure that you start to address some of those belief systems and really flip that script, because it's really important to know that it's not selfish to care for yourself, and that it's important that you do, because you don't want to get to a point where you start to get sick, because that could happen very often. So that's going to be under one of the other myths that I'll talk about a little later. So the second myth that I see a lot of people struggling with and believing, even though it's definitely false, is that self-care is too time consuming. Maybe you've been putting off self-care because you think it maybe takes too long, or that you've been finding you're making a lot of excuses about how long things actually take, and this could prevent you from taking any action as well. But the truth is that self-care actually doesn't have to take that long. You don't have to spend hours on it every single day. You could actually just do simple practices that can be woven into your day. And sometimes some of these practices take 5 minutes, some of them take 10 minutes, some of them take, a minute, really depending on what it is that you need and where you were at on your day. And I'm going to teach you how to do this today, so it's going to really take off that pressure of having to have this whole laundry list that you need to do. So the last myth that I really wanted to bring forth is that self-care is something that you have to earn. So this is something that I've seen a lot with my clients, and oftentimes what is the underlying belief system has to do with feeling unworthy. So some people actually, feel unworthy of self-care unless they're kind of either on this verge of burnout or maybe even on this verge of a breakdown. And they may see that self-care is a luxury instead of a necessity. And the truth is that self-care is a right, and it's not something that needs to be earned. It's not something that you have to, you don't have to work X amount of hours a day to offer yourself self-care. It is something that you are deserving of. And it's something that you need to do and give to yourself now. It's also better to do this now and not wait until you get to the point where you are riddled with disease because you have been, neglecting your body. You've been neglecting your needs, and then your body is like screaming for you to pay attention to it. I see so many healers and so many light workers struggling with autoimmune disorders or chronic pain or fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue. And oftentimes they don't recognize the reason why these things are occurring is because they are not nourishing themselves as they need to. Their body is crying out for help because it has been neglected in certain ways for nourishment. So those are the 3 top myths that I wanted to offer you guys today, and just shedding some light on them. Are there any other maybe belief systems that you have that are kind of coming up now that we've gone over this, that perhaps make it a little hard for you to actually honor your self-care needs? You might want to write them down, see what are those thoughts that I have. And then I want you to really ask yourself, like, is that really the truth? Whose truth is that? Maybe that might be society's truth. Maybe that might be your parents' truth, or maybe your caregiver's truth. You want to ask, like, what is my truth? Because that is the only way you're going to be able to really recognize whether or not these beliefs are actually either yours, or whether or not they are empowering. Because it's really time for you to really care for yourself in the utmost way, to allow yourself the nourishment that you need at this time, and providing that without any guilt. So I hope that you like that section with the myths. The next section, we're going to actually be going into doing an exercise. So I'd like you to just take a moment right now and grab a pen and paper. And you can pause this video and come back when you have gotten your pencil and paper. Just give you a couple of moments as you come back. So in this next section, we are going to actually be really going through now some of maybe what are the things that you were doing that were considered self-care, but you are now maybe recognizing that they're not. And you're going to also be writing down, what are the things that actually are self-care and that, that feel good, that nourish me, that are definitely something that is giving me energy, is not taking away from my energy, it's not depleting me. So I'd like you to go ahead and actually, with your pen or your pencil, just go ahead and make a line horizontally across the page, and then one line down the middle, so kind of looking like a bit of a T. And on one side, I'd like you to write down, those self-care practices that you were doing that have not been serving you. And then on the other side, the right side, I'd like you to now write down the practices that have been nurturing, that have been, giving you energy, and that have been allowing you to recharge as well. And I just want you to take a couple of moments to write that out. And you can go ahead and pause this video as well, so it gives you enough time to write out. Okay, great. So once you have written down the different aspects, so the different self-care practices, or the ones that seemed like self-care but they're not, I'd like you to now just recognize, and those ones that are on the left side, are those practices that you still want to keep? Are they still practices that are serving you in any way at this time? Most of you are probably going to get a no. And there might be, for some of you, maybe some fear, maybe some resistance about letting them go. And I just want you to know that that's also okay, especially when we start to recognize that some of the things we've been doing is actually not helping. Just give yourself some grace, give yourself some compassion, and knowing that the time is now for you to really decide on choosing something different. And perhaps this time it could be choosing something that is going to actually be more nourishing, something that will help you connect more with yourself and help you to just, feel better about yourself and just feel more aligned as well. So now that you have this information, I'd like us to now go a little deeper, and I'm going to be teaching you a technique that you can actually do, which will help you to really tune into your body and really now kind of like body check almost, like if any of the current practices that you have written on the right side, whether those are in alignment, on this level, to create the balance and nourishment that you need within. So once again, we are looking at it from a mind, body, and soul perspective. So some of them might actually be more for just maybe one of those aspects. So just keeping that in mind as well. So I'd like you to go ahead and just close your eyes right now. And we're gonna just go ahead and get quite comfortable. And if you could just go ahead and also take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And we can go ahead and do that for another 2 breaths. And I'd like you to now ask yourself the question. And you can address your body in this way, as in, hey body, what does a yes feel like in my body? So what does a hell yes feel like in my body? And most of you are probably going to notice right away something has shifted in the body. And so just notice and feel what it is that you are noticing. Maybe it's some expansiveness. Maybe you are feeling maybe an opening in your chest, an opening in your body somewhere. What is that sensation? If you're having trouble identifying that right away, I'd like you to just say the word yes. What does a yes feel like? And then just continue saying yes and yes and yes and so on for a couple of moments. You will notice in your body a shift. You will notice something. So you should have already received some sort of response in the body. And that is a clear sign and clear message that is the way your body is communicating yes. And this is the way your body is communicating alignment. So it's really important to recognize and be mindful, especially when your body is expanding in this way. So the next thing that we're going to be looking at is how to identify what is a no and also what is a maybe. So let's start with the maybe now. Once again, we can just make sure our eyes are closed and we can ask our body, hey body, can you please show me what is a maybe in my body? And some of you might feel sometimes a bit of confusion, or sometimes it might feel a little bit like a back and forth kind of motion in the body. Just notice any subtle change that is happening, that is occurring. And once again, you can just say the word maybe, show me maybe, 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 maybe. You could just notice whatever you are feeling, any sensations. Okay, great. So now you should know what the maybe is. And, when we get the maybe, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a no. Sometimes the maybes are there because there might be some belief systems that need to be looked at for it to either get to a yes, or perhaps sometimes it can either go both ways. So it's something that you can play around with, that's for sure, and asking yourself some questions as to, why is this a maybe, and even maybe writing that out. And lastly, we're going to be addressing how to notice the no in your body. So let's go ahead once again and close our eyes, and we could take a couple of more deep breaths if we want to just get more centered And let's go ahead now and ask the body, hey body, what does a no feel like? Can you show me what a no feels like in my body? And just once again, sense, notice, and feel, what is the sensation of a no in your body? Where does it feel maybe contracted? Where does it feel constricted? Where does it feel heavy in the body? For some people, it could be in the belly. Sometimes it could be the chest. Sometimes it's in the head, depending on how your body tunes into that. So just notice it now, and you could once again say, you know, please show me the no, and quite once again say no, 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 no. For me, it's very clear in my stomach. It's like this kind of feeling of heaviness, this kind of feeling of constriction. Okay, so now that you know your no, and you know your maybes and you know your yeses, these are now some really good things to now recognize within yourself. So as you kind of go through your day, if you're more in tune with the body, you can now allow yourself to learn to communicate with the body in this way, to notice when it's, you know, saying, no, don't do this, and, you know, yes, this feels great, let's continue doing this. Or maybe I'm not sure about this, I need to look into, you know, why I'm feeling this way, right? So the next section that we are going to be looking at is actually going back to our list that we made a little earlier. And on the left side, we already know that those are, you know, things that are not resonating. Those are things that are not helping, right? So we don't need to do any, you know, checking when it comes to that. You can address that by letting those things go, either all at once or gradually, but knowing that if there are coping mechanisms, then you do have to make sure you address that as well, okay? So now on the right side, what we're gonna do is kind of doing a bit of like fact checking almost, right? And checking to see if those practices that you have are actually in alignment right now to what it is that you need to really get to this beautiful and highest version of yourself right now. So what you want to do is go ahead and look at the list and start with the one at the very top. And you want to actually ask the body, so hey body, is this practice in my highest and best good? Is this practice bringing me into alignment? And then just notice how your body is responding. You know, is it saying a yes? Is it saying a no? Is it saying maybe? So once you have your answer, you know, just write it down next to the first point. And I'd like you to just go ahead and do that for the rest of them as well. So once again, asking, hey body, is this next one, is this actually in alignment for me? Does this actually bring me to a place of, is this in my highest and best good? Does this bring me to a place to alignment at this time? And then just writing down, you know, do you get a yes? Do you get a no? So you might want to pause this video and go through the list and then come back to this video once you have completed the full list. So now that you have identified on your list whether those are actually still in alignment to bring you to a place of balance, you can now make a decision. Which ones are you now ready to let go of on this list? Which ones do you want to adopt? And also check in, you know, are these all maybe for only one level of functioning? Maybe it might just be for the mind, or maybe it might just be for the body, or maybe it might just be for the soul. And just pay attention to that, because maybe you might not want to keep all of those. You might just want to keep maybe a couple of them. So lastly, what we're going to be talking about are now some other daily practices that you can do which will help you come into alignment. And we are going to actually be doing a little fact checking as we go, but just know that right now you don't have to write them all down. I'm actually going to send you a copy of the daily self-care practices that you can do, and just also know that not all of them are going to be daily. It's really up to you. You're going to have to check in with yourself to see. Some may be practices to do once a week. Some of them might be to do every other day. And that's also, this is also what you can actually ask your body as well. And your body will respond and let you know what it needs and how much it needs it. So that really takes away from that guesswork of knowing, okay, well, do I have to do all of this all the time? Because usually it's a no. When we have these like long laundry lists of practices, it's easy for us to get overwhelmed when we think we have to do them all, every single day. But what I've definitely learned on my journey and working with my clients is that there are some days you need more, there are some days that you need less, and it's totally fine to be flexible. And it's also great for you to be able to not hold yourself in this place of this constant pressure of being perfect, okay? So just know that you give yourself some grace and allow yourself to show up for you in the highest way, but know there are going to maybe be some days where it might be a bit more challenging, okay? So just be kind to yourself. So we're going to be now addressing the first facet, which is the mind. And I'll be talking about 10 different practices that you can do. And the idea is not to do all of them, okay? So just make sure you tune in with yourself and see which ones really ping, which ones you're getting the yes for, okay? And then go from there. So the first practice I wanted to share is mindful awareness. So you can actually keep this as, you could do this during a routine activity, such as when you're brushing your teeth, or maybe when you're styling your hair, or when you are maybe taking a bath or a shower, and just giving yourself that time to be completely present in that moment with whatever activity it is that you're doing. You could also schedule 5 minutes each day to play. And, that could be anything from like watching a funny video on YouTube or TikTok, or, getting up and dancing, or just maybe cracking some jokes. It's a very fun and easy way to balance the mind. So the next one I wanted to share is a meditation. And it doesn't have to be, an hour. It doesn't have to be that long. You could do it for 5 minutes. You could do it for 10 minutes, where you can just focus on your breath, focus on your body, coming to present moment. That could be really helpful as well. Another one that is really potent is actually cleaning up your social media. So if you have some people that may be posting a lot of things that either trigger you or maybe a lot of negative content, then you want to maybe look at whether or not you want to maybe view their posts. So there is options to have like limited access to seeing certain people's content, or if you feel like you don't want to maybe follow them any longer, that's up to you if you want to maybe unfollow them as well. But this can definitely work wonders, especially when you're highly sensitive, if you're an empath, and if you are noticing that there are some content that's really frightening you, and you want to make sure that you're protecting your energy, okay? So the next one that I would definitely recommend is making space for yourself to disconnect from technology. And if you do this for 30 minutes, you will notice how different you feel. You don't have to do this every day. It might not be practical to do it every day. But if you can do this at least a couple of times a week, or even at least once a week, this can be really, really helpful. Help you like really disconnect and unplug from, all of the messaging, all of the emails, all of the different things that might need your attention. Another thing that could be really helpful for the mind is to declutter anything in your environment. So maybe there's something that you just haven't been using for a really long time, and it's time for you to really let it go. Then, you may want to recycle it or give it away. Or maybe if you have a lot of clothes that you just don't wear anymore, and or maybe they're not your style anymore. Maybe you feel like you've shifted. So it's time, you know, definitely to do some decluttering and release some of that stuff as well. It makes a really big difference. And another practice that I really love to do is making a gratitude list. So this is a really beautiful daily practice, and if it feels good to you, really writing down 10 things every day in a journal of things that you're grateful for, no matter how small or big they are. It makes such a big difference with your mental health. It really helps to elevate your spirits, and it's also a wonderful way to manifest as well. Doing something creative is also a really great way to balance this this level. And this is one of my favorites, which is doing a brain dump. So if you're somebody that has, you know, a lot of mental energy, you might worry a lot, or you may actually have just a lot of thoughts of like things that you need to do. So what you can do is actually write it down in a notebook, prioritize whatever needs to be done, and you know, you could actually go ahead and burn the page and let yourself release that energy. It really helps to let go of a lot of that mental mind energy, some of the monkey mind stuff, and helps you really feel more balanced. And lastly, cleaning up your desktop and your computer. So if you have a bunch of icons that you're like looking at every day, it might make you feel really overwhelmed. So cleaning it up, just keeping the ones that you need, and you know, closing, you know, all of the tabs. If you have like, you know, a bunch of tabs just kind of open and you're not looking at them, and you keep saying I'll look at it later, and you just never later never comes. So it's time to like let those go, especially if you have this on your phone as well. So now for the body, there are definitely many practices, and this is not an exhaustive list. This is only 10. There are so many others, but I'm going to just talk about the ones that can be the most beneficial for us as light workers, as healers, individuals who are really here to hold a high vibration. So drinking more water is a big one. You know, we're definitely clearing through the emotional body as well when we're drinking water. And I mean, I think we're something like 70% of water anyway. So we need a lot of water, and most people probably don't get enough. So this is probably a message for someone watching this. You have to drink more water. So another practice that I love, and this is something I do daily because it just makes me feel calmer and it helps to balance my nervous system as well, is practicing belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. This helps you really calm the mind, calm the body, and it helps you to really come into more balance as well. Moving your body, that's another huge one. So doing what feels good. So if that means taking a walk, if that means, you know, going to run, or maybe dancing, maybe it's playing a sport. You know, if the thought of going to the gym, you know, irks you and it just makes you feel like, ugh, then don't go to the gym. You know, this is all about finding what is in alignment, right? So you don't want to be forcing yourself to do this unless it's something that you enjoy doing, okay? So another thing that really helps us to balance the body is to go to sleep earlier. You know, you might be, if you're on screens late at night, might have a hard time falling asleep. So maybe putting a routine in before bed might actually help you to sleep earlier. Helps you really recharge your batteries when we're having enough sleep. So I hope that was helpful for you. Another thing that's really helpful is self-massage. So even if it's just, you know, taking some beautiful body oil and putting it over your temples or your face, or maybe just your shoulders or your arms, you know, wherever you're holding tension. As healers, oftentimes we're holding a lot of tension in our necks, we're holding a lot of tension in our shoulders, in our backs. You know, when we feel like we're carrying a lot of burdens, then we're gonna feel a lot in our shoulders especially. So that's just keeping that in mind, and giving yourself, you know, some time each day to help you relax those muscles as well. So practicing earthing is also a really great practice. So if you're in an area of the world where that is possible right now, I know a lot of us, we're experiencing, you know, the fall and winter is coming, so might not be something that you can do right now, but Earthing is really just getting on the grass, getting on the earth, putting your bare feet on the grass, and, you know, standing there for at least 10 minutes or so, where you really can help really discharge your energy, and it helps with inflammation. It helps with so many different things. And if that's not possible for you right now, you can just do this at home. Put your feet on the floor, and you can even imagine like roots that are growing out of your feet, going through the ground, going through the rock and the sediment and all of that, and going into the center of the earth. This is a wonderful way to ground, a wonderful way to also discharge energy and allow those earth energies to also fill the body as well. Super, super nourishing. And it's a practice I do every day. So another great practice to do is also taking a shower and visualizing any stress and any energy that you may have picked up from other people as in your aura. So just imagining the water is almost like, you know, a white light even, and allowing that water to go through your entire body, and allowing any of that energy to go down the drain. Just visualizing that is a wonderful practice to help cleanse the energetic body as well. So the next one that I would definitely recommend is doing a body scan. So even if it's only like 10 minutes, this can really help you to pay this mindful attention to the body, to different parts. And it also helps you to really move from the monkey mind as well. The next one that I wanted to recommend is also stretching your body. So even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, moving the body. So many of us are just, you know, on our computers and working from home still, right? So we want to make sure we're getting up, we're stretching, we're moving, we're getting that blood flowing, right? It's really important. And lastly, for the body, getting out in the sun for at least 10 minutes a day. And if I know for some of us it might be really hard, especially if we live in an area that's a little darker. So, you know, even imagining the sun, imagining a beautiful, visualizing a beautiful yellow sun, that could also be really helpful. But if you are able to have access to the sun outside, it's wonderful. We are also downloading light codes as we do look at the sun. It helps with our pineal gland. It helps us to open up to certain gifts and our intuition as well. So, and not to mention that there's already, of course, so many benefits of course, getting those beautiful vitamins as well. So lastly, the next set of practices I wanted to share are really soul practices, and these help to nurture the soul on this deeper level. So the first one has to do with your emotions. Many of us, we ignore our emotions, or we suppress them, or we just push them away. But really getting in tune with your soul means getting in tune with your emotions. Now you want to learn how to notice, just notice what you're feeling and having no judgment towards it. It's so easy for us to, say, I shouldn't feel this way, or, why am I feeling this way? But I'm just bringing this possibility for you to really notice what you're feeling, name what you're feeling, allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling, and know that emotions, they are just information, they are just messengers. So allow yourself to feel it, allow yourself to move through it. There's nothing wrong with your emotions, and just know that they're just part of being human. The next practice is starting to notice how you feel around certain people. There might be some people that are, when you're around them, you feel light, you feel expanded, and there's other people where you feel really heavy. So you may feel really drained, and you might want to see why that is. Maybe it might be perhaps a mindset that they're in, or maybe they're having a hard time. Do as best as you can, of course, to support them if that feels right to you. Otherwise, if you have to set any loving boundaries with them, please do so as well. If those people cannot if they cannot actually abide by any boundaries that you have, then you may want to recognize whether or not you want to limit your time with them, or maybe not have a relationship with them any longer. And it's really up to you what it is that is right for you in those moments, of course. So So the next thing that I wanted to share was allowing yourself to take time to just go on adventures by yourself. And even if it's just like, an hour once a week or something like that, that is something that's so nourishing for your soul. Our soul loves to have adventure. Our soul loves to discover new things. So, allowing yourself to do that can be extremely wonderful. So, another thing I wanted to mention was that if you are having any trouble, any struggling right now, I want you to know that it's okay to reach out. It's totally okay. If you could reach out to a friend or a family member to receive support. As healers and light workers and individuals who we sometimes give a little too much, it's sometimes hard for us to ask, for support ourselves. And it's really important that we are not only just giving, but we're also receiving. And there are so many people that love us out there that would be able to offer that very happily if we ask. So really being able to get into that receiving mode really means that we are able to ask for help when we need it, and then be able to accept it as it comes. So the next thing that I wanted to share is something else that can really be so nourishing for us is really going out in nature. Whether that is walking by the ocean or just listening to the birds singing, or, just taking a mindful walk, whatever it is that is really calling for you at this time, you want to be following that as well, okay? So I still have a couple more practices to share for the soul, and that includes community. So connect with your community, whether that's your local community, whether that's your spiritual community, whether maybe you don't have a community as yet, and maybe you're looking for one. Whatever it is, having a community, someplace where you can feel at home, someplace where you can feel seen, is a way for us to really have our souls to be nourished. So if you've been feeling really lonely, if you've been having a hard time, then maybe joining a community is something that is what your soul is calling for right now. So another thing that you can do that could be really helpful is also connecting with someone in a small way. So whether that is like smiling to a stranger, or maybe it is having a conversation with somebody in the elevator, or maybe it's like, having a chat with the waiter at the restaurant where the person's serving your food. Any form of small communication can be really, really helpful. And the next one that I wanted to share with you guys is creating affirmations that are based on truth. And this also helps you to anchor in a new reality. So you don't want to have a lot of affirmations, because if you have too much, it becomes really overwhelming. So you can choose maybe 3 to 5 that help you anchor in what your truth is. Some people will have an affirmation if they're struggling with, putting themselves out there. They may have a affirmation that says, I'm courageous, for example. So whatever you might be struggling with right now, allow yourself to look at the belief and the thought and notice whether or not it's actually true. So when you recognize that it is not true any longer, you want to go ahead, release that thought, and then create an affirmation that helps you anchor in this new reality. Excuse me. So that could be super helpful for you, especially if you are really creating this new way of being for yourself as well. So another great way to really nourish the soul is to connect with your inner child. So start to really hear what the inner child is needing at this time from you, and asking your inner child, like, what does your inner child need to play right now? How does the inner child want to play? That's a beautiful way to get in touch with this more deeper aspect of yourself, and creating this relationship that really helps you to really nurture as well. And so lastly, another great way to nourish ourselves is to really cleanse our space. A lot of us don't recognize how much energy is around us, especially that's embedded in our walls, our clothing and things like that. And if you're not cleansing the energy in your space regularly, then it sometimes can feel heavy when you get home. or it might just feel like kind of not as bright and open. So if that's the case for you, you want to, you know, make sure that you do any practice that helps to clear the energy in the space. So if you use things like sage or maybe Palo Santo or incense, you could do that in each room. Or you could also state certain mantras, or maybe even use Reiki as well to clear the energy in the space. You could also use sound therapy as well. So if there are a lot of energy clearings for spaces actually on YouTube that you can look up as well, which really helps to elevate the vibration and release energy too. So those are the different tips that I have for you at this time to really help you to balance the mind, body, and soul. And like I said, you know, you don't want to choose so many. You want to choose a couple of them that just feel fantastic when you think about doing them. Notice in your body, you know, that yes. And make sure that you recognize that you don't have to be perfect. There are going to be some days that you want to be able to do maybe a few of them, depending on how your day is going. You know, you might have a really busy day and all you can do for meditation is a minute, and that's totally fine. You want to be able to honor where you are at in each moment and know that it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to do, you know, 15 things every single day. It could probably be fine to do maybe like 3 or 4 of them, and you know, do them throughout your day so it doesn't feel overwhelming, and it actually helps to nourish and helps to balance, and it really helps you to come into alignment so that you feel better, and that you also, you know, come into this higher version of yourself where you can show up, you know, you can show up for other people because you were showing up for yourself first. So that is the end of this the session today. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you gained some helpful tips on how to connect with yourself, how to really recognize, you know, some of the things that perhaps you didn't recognize before that weren't actually helping you. So if you are struggling and you do need help with implementing any of these changes, please, you know, reach out to me. I'd be happy to offer you some support. At this time, I actually am offering 30-minute clarity calls for individuals who are interested in creating healthy habits, who are interested in also expansion as light workers, as healers, and any individual who might be struggling right now, you know, struggling with creating healthy habits, creating, you know, becoming the best version of themselves. If they've been struggling, or maybe you've been having a lot of challenging thoughts. So wherever you are at, feel free to reach out to me. I am going to actually be sending an email with the link to my calendar. So feel free to book a 30-minute free clarity call where I can offer you definitely some advice and a blueprint to really help you move forward. And if you also want to stay in touch, I'm on Instagram, and you can find me at I am Farina Latif on Instagram, which this is where I'm most active, and you can message me there if you wish, or you can send me an email back at dianafarinalatif@gmail.com as well. Right now I am offering one-on-one coaching sessions, as well as energy healing sessions as well, activations, and also I have a Lightworker Accelerator program as well. So there are many different ways to work with me. If this feels aligned for you, I would definitely invite you to book a clarity call with me, and I would be happy to chat with you and see what it is that I can help you with and how I could be of service at this time. So thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a pleasure. I hope that you guys have a wonderful week ahead, okay? Take care, and wishing you well.